Now, the other mujer that I will present really needs no introduction. We all know who she is, and I just found out a tidbit of information that she's a manita from New Mexico, from Alamo Gordo. Wow. And so I'd like to present Cindy Chavez. She is beginning her new work as executive officer of the South Bay AFL and CIO Labor Council.
And this performer, because you know, in many respects, a lot of our history gets sort of rubbed away because we do not tell our own stories. So it's really an honor to be with both of you, and thank you for your leadership, and to our great committee for pulling all of us together this morning. Well done. No small feat. What I thought I would do is I wanted to talk a little bit about women and their leadership style and how much of that is connected to gender and kind of what's happening in the bigger world. And then I thought what we'd do is chat a little bit about what that means and what the implications of it are for your leadership. Now let me start with a quick question. How many of you, and I'm going to talk about this mostly related to politics, but how many of you have ever thought about running for office? Can you raise your hand? Okay, at the end of this talk, that hand's got to go way up. That's got to be different than it is right now. That's not okay. Stop. Okay. No. We'll work on that. January 4th, 2007, there was a very profound change in our nation's history. Does anybody know what happened on January 4th, 2007? No? I will come back to that. That year, in 2006, I ran for mayor of San Jose. And when I ran for mayor of San Jose, the night of the election when I lost, it was hard to feel bad about losing the election. And I know that sounds crazy. You're going to say, really? You know, you could spend all that money and have your reputation trashed and blah, blah, blah. But what happened in the country that night is that the Democrats became majority in Congress. And it started to lay the groundwork for what later became an incredible odyssey for both Senator Clinton and Senator Obama in terms of the race for president. And as I went to sleep that night, there was, you know, a lot of people still up talking about what are the implications of this for the future, including my husband, who had all the energy in the world to talk to all these young people that were with us. And I remember getting into bed that night, and it must have been 2 or 3 in the morning, and CNN had just stopped updating what was happening, and there was this big story or a clip of President Bill Clinton talking about how, out of losing, what he learned from that experience. And I thought, you know, I know at some point I'm going to have something to reflect on that will be an opportunity to grow again. And I want to talk to you about what I learned that day. So the next morning, we found out that we took a majority in Congress. On January 4th, 2007, Nancy Pelosi became the first Speaker of the Congress. And what is powerful about that is she is the most powerful woman in the world, really. And in this country, she became the highest elected official that we'd ever had in this nation. And if any of you watched on January 4th, what happened was, when she took the gavel in the Congress, did any of you see this on TV? Yes. What will you remember? What pops out in your head from seeing that visual? She brought up every child that was in there watching their mothers or their fathers or her getting their new role, getting sworn in. And what was profound about that is she did not shy away from who she essentially is, and what prompted her to run for office, being a mother and a homemaker. And if you read her book, her story, she starts out by pronouncing that. Instead of, like many women, when you run for office, you try to figure out what you can talk about beyond motherhood and homemaking. And here she was, openly embracing what helped her prepare to be a leader of one of the most powerful countries, or the most powerful country today in the world. Now, what do we learn from that experience? And what does that mean in terms of leadership style and the difference between men and women? For many women who choose to be involved in politics, the leadership style that gets adopted is that of the dominant culture. What does that mean? What that means, you be on top of the food chain, right? You're going to talk about yourself. You're going to push yourself forward, and you're going to be strategic about issues that you perform in order to prepare yourself to that next level. Kind of boring, and kind of anybody could do it. Like, why does it matter if it's a woman or a man if the dominant culture is what we respond to? But here's what we saw when women began to run for office. Stronger attention being paid to education. Higher criminal penalties for rape and child abuse. The National Institutes of Health for many, many years did not study women. Why? Because our bodies are complicated. I kid you not. I wish I could make this up, but this happened in this country, and these changes really started to happen in the 70s and 80s and 90s when we got more women elected to office. My point here is that it is enormously important that new lenses get pushed to the forefront. Because in the absence of that, in a representative democracy, we are asking people to acknowledge and experience and change policymaking and direction in this country without our shared experiences. How is that possible? How is that possible? And let me give you a small example, but I think it's rather profound. Sally Lieber, who was an assembly member, when she was in office, she fought for prison reforms in women's prisons. And one of them was that women would not be chained to their bed during childbirth. It's 2009. We're having this debate in 2007, 2008. Why? I'll tell you why. Men don't have childbirth. I think science will change that, but for now, we've got a very specific lens to bring. And let me just talk about this as it relates to culture. Being Latina, Mexican American, it is in fact true that you are treated differently based on your culture and ethnicity in this country. Is it not? I mean, we don't have to spend a bunch of time on that, but it is true. It is true that as Hillary Clinton ran for president, that there was a lot of discussion about her from a sexual perspective. What was she wearing? Was her cleavage too low? Was she too emotional? Barack Obama, a lot about whether or not he was a Muslim, a lot about what did it mean to be all the different ethnicities he was, and literally confusion over what is he, who is he to our community. And what I find ironic about that, and again, the lens we bring, is that in the absence of coming with these experiences, it's really hard to believe that you still need opportunities in college to create equity. That it still matters that schools are being spent, money being spent in different ways. If you, in terms of equity, in terms of the amount of money spent in each school, if you in fact don't believe that there are differences in the way people are treated. And the only way to know that is if you're one of those people being treated badly, right? Right. So when I ran for mayor, and I'm going to close with this story, and then I want to talk about what it means for the future. When I ran for mayor, and I want to ask, is my husband still here? He is here because he drove, but he's in back. So I say this to women who want to run for office. A partner who believes in you 100% is critical. Really. I want to acknowledge this because, ladies, I have heard women, again in our day and age, say, I married well. And when they say that, they're normally talking about whether or not they married someone with money. And that's got to change on our end. We want people to treat us with equity and respect. We've got to be part of changing that too. But I did marry well. Not for money, but for a very good man who would be a partner. And who, when people walk up to him, this still happens to him, when they call him Mr. Chavez, he never even says a word about it. And he took our son to Rotary Club meetings, and my son cried during speakers, and he didn't even move. He just sat there with our baby, with our son, Brennan. So let me just talk about what happened during the election. What happened during the election was that we had a couple of threats and people being very physical with me. And I don't know if you remember this, but there were 5 people running. And I was the only candidate that people asked about how I was going to handle raising a son while being a mayor. And 2 other people running for office have children my age that were running for mayor. Never got the question. And, I had to have the police meet me at an announced phone bank because they got some crazy, angry man calling who was upset about me running for mayor. And so when I got to this phone bank, I see the San Jose police, and I say, oh my goodness, what happened? I'm not thinking this is about me. And they say, well, we've had a credible threat. And I could go on. That happened, you know, I had someone grab me on the campaign trail, just very excited, but a very large man who was so excited to meet me and shook me, and I was like, okay, you need help in many ways. I'm not going to be able to offer that to you. But the difference was stark. So anyway, we had to call the police, and no other candidate had the same challenge. Why do I say this? Given that experience, given all that happened, I would run again in a flash. In a flash. And I would recommend that you do too, because of the changes that women can make when they run for office. We used redevelopment money for the first time ever to rebuild schools in downtown San Jose. We were the first city in the nation to offer children health insurance. We moved redevelopment money into poor neighborhoods that had never happened before. It matters if you run. What's different about our style is what we choose to bring to the table and not shrinking away from being women, because we have a unique role. We can be as bold and sometimes more collaborative. We can be as smart and sometimes more strategic, right? We can change the direction of this country and the cities that we live in and the school boards that we sit on if we are comfortable bringing our leadership style to the forefront. And I want to close with this comment. There are a number of women in this audience, and I would like to ask them to stand. And I saw Michelle Mendoza, and Corky, and Ana, Betty, I'm trying to, Consuelo, but there was someone who was sitting next to you a little bit ago. Oh, please stand. I want you to stand up too. Do you mind? Just stand. Oh, Consuelo too, please. And ladies, here's the big lesson. Every one of these women, every single one of these women, before I ever ran for office, every single one of these women encouraged me to lead. And they did it in open ways and they did it in sly ways. And Cecilia Arroyo, who's not here today, who passed away a couple of weeks ago, when I very first worked at the county, she looked at me very seriously and she said, "You have trouble, you come see me." And seriously, and I wanted to just give a round of applause to these women, because what they did is what we need to do for those of us who come after. They created opportunities for me to run. Had I won mayor, I would have been the first Mexican-American woman to be mayor of a major city in the country's history. And I could not have even contended without all of you. Give them a big round of applause. Think about running for office. Seriously, I want you to... And the first thing is, you will have to believe in yourself for other people to believe in you. Believe in yourself for other people to believe in you. So questions, comments, ideas. Who wants to strategize about the thing they're going to take over? Anybody?
I just want to comment that I hope that our college and high school students put this in their mind, and even though they don't raise their hand today, in the future we'd like to see them run for office. Yeah.
So did you hear that? Betty was asking all of you to consider the leadership role that you will play in the community and take it seriously that you can run for office and change the environment that you live in. Any questions? Or what made you go into that route? Behind the scenes kind of girls, gals, ladies, women. And it went in that order, girls, gals, ladies, women. In fact, it's a funny thing, when I decided to run for office, the reason that I did was really quite by accident, and that was that my husband and I bought a home in downtown San Jose, and our house got shot. And as I was meeting with the candidates who wanted to run for office, I was asking them all of these questions, and I didn't feel like any of them were going to be as bold as I was going to be in terms of making change. And what the aha was for me is these were all people I looked up to, and I thought, wow, I looked up to each one of you, and I could do a better job. So I love you, but I'm going to run against you and win.
I mean, what changes would you like to see in the next 5 years in terms of where women's issues are?
Important for women as we choose to take leadership roles in organizations is that when you run for office, and I hope a number of you do, one of the first things that happens is the city staff or the boards you're sitting on will come and sit with you, and they're going to say, so what are you interested in? Healthcare, education, and they're going to presume you're interested in issues that they define as being women's issues. And the fact of the matter is, for women, if we're worried about the literally cataclysmic changes that are happening in our economy and in the planet, we need to step out of just one issue and recognize that being a part of decisions around economic development, transportation, land use, how much cities or counties or school boards spend, where they spend it, that all of those issues are women's issues too. And again, the unique lens we bring will be how do you connect that to the life of our children. So for example, I have a 7-year-old son. You know, honestly, the environment wasn't a core issue for me. I've been really focused on economic development. But I clearly understand that if we don't blend the way we think about the economy and the environment together in a really neat, thoughtful way, that all the work I do on economic development won't matter. And, you know, while I'm having debates with people about it, in the back of my mind is it's still a 7-year-old boy that motivates me to think about this in a bigger way.
Coming up that maybe the students could be involved in the near future so they have a resource?
I don't think there are really enough formal programs for leadership development for women. And now, having said that, there are some interesting ones if you want to run for office, and one is called Emerge. And it's really focused on Democratic women who are pro-choice, but that's a very, very good program. But I would also say, and tell me, Anna, if you think that you have something you want to add to this, but if you're on a college campus, run for office and get involved in a club, because the fact of the matter is the formal classes help, but what really helps is making, right, like Michelle's saying, yeah, I didn't get a class and I was still awesome. Right, and the reason is, and she got bad grades, and I talk about that too. But the reason is that really the way to learn your leadership style is going to be doing work. So finding what you are passionate about, understanding all there is to understand about it, and then making change in that area. Because if you do that, you will really, one, you'll get a great network, which I think is very important, on issues that you care about, and I think a very unique woman's perspective on running for office, and I don't want to be disrespectful to the men here, but women tend to run based on a particular issue and issues, and a lot of men run because they think they can. And if you were to ask people, no, I mean, I'm serious, that if you were to ask men, are you ready to run? You said a whole room of people, could you run for office? Are you smart enough? Most of you would think, what have I done that would get me ready? But the guys, again, no disrespect, would say, of course. You know, and so we have more work to do in terms of building confidence. But some of that happens from just informally networking, getting our sisters and brothers on boards and commissions, and right as early as possible.
Running for mayor, you had to face a lot of conflict. Do you still deal with that?
No doubt about it. But if you are remotely someone whose feelings get hurt really easily, I say start with being president of a club or being active in your church and getting that thick skin built up, because it is very difficult. And it is also difficult for your family. I mean, my bigger challenge in thinking about this in the future is, now that my son is older, he would observe more than he did when he was 5. He was like, oh, look, there's my mom. You know, mom's on TV. He didn't have any concept of it. But now he would be much more present, and I think getting your family ready. And my husband can tell you it's hard to be this spouse
who have to take care of the kids at home. And so when you try to tell them, look, take on this internship or take the summer program where you can learn these skills and it can increase your CV, there's all these home responsibilities. So, I mean, what can you tell them? I mean, how can we, I don't know, push somehow, encourage?
So let me just say, one of the things I was just thinking about as I was learning more about Juana Briones, is I was thinking how interesting that she never must have slept, right? And I think part of it is that I think that's true, that there are a lot of pressures on us, and a lot of, especially if you're in a single family head of household. But here's what I would say to the young women here. There's so much time to get married and have babies. And I'm serious, like you can do a lot beforehand. And I could list my regrets, and they start with not going to law school right out of college and not finishing that education, which I didn't do. I'm not a lawyer. I pretend sometimes, but I'm not. And so I would say, you know what, love and getting to be a parent are the single best decision I made as an adult was marrying my father, truly, no doubt in my mind, and choosing to be a mother. But I got married when I was 33, when I was ready. And when people said, oh, what are you going to do at the wedding? And are you going to change your last name? And and I was 33. To have that, when you're 23, it's harder to have that discussion with a future mother-in-law. When you're 33, not so difficult. getting to have a baby, you know, I chose to have, I have a son, and I was 37 when I had him, and I intended to, and I wanted him, and I was ready to be a mother. So first of all of that, thank you. All of that will come in time. And it doesn't feel like that when you're younger. You feel like it's going to run out. I promise you it won't. I mean, for the rest of us, you know, it really is about making choices. And sometimes they're really hard on us for a very specified amount of time. But I would tell you, nothing in the world, besides being a good parent and being good to your family, nothing in the world that you can contribute to the community is as real as getting outside of your home, being value-based, and making choices that lift everyone up. And if we don't all engage in that, we won't have a planet to brag about very much longer. I mean, really, or an economy to be a part of. So it's incumbent upon all of us, who, when the light goes on, that we move forward. So thank you, and thank you for letting me be with you.
You're right, these women are fabulous. We want to thank our committee, especially Betty, Consuelo, Hilaria, Aurora, did a great job for our young kids. For them to see, and they brought someone like you here, who's given us so much insight, so much advice, and especially for these young girls, they can hear it not only from us who are telling you and your teachers or your moms, but from someone who's been through that, who's gone through that, and who's a wonderful role model. Thank you so much, and that will help you for all those little corajes.
A little bit different because we're trying to have you actually interact a little bit. First of all, I want to mention that we have some containers like this that says mentor. What we need to know is if you want to be talked to about ways to help the next generation, for the next generation to understand the things you had to learn the hard way, make sure we have your name, because we're going to be doing different ways, online meetings, telephone conversations, where we can get the next generation to get up to speed with everything you've already learned. So don't forget to leave your name in. We also have a videographer and a photographer. Where's our photographer? Right here. Okay, Frank Reese and Juan, I'm sorry, Juan, who's doing photographs. You cannot and should not leave if during the few sessions that we've had, if you have not spoken to the camera, because we're collecting history. Sometimes it doesn't sound right, but you people are monuments. And just like we can't lose Juan Abriones, we can't lose you. So I'm real serious.
My name is Phyllis Carrasco, and I'm an artist in the community here. I'm from this area. I was raised in the east side where the Pink Elephant is, with Prairie Street, Historian King. I have a lot of friends here. I've watched a lot of success stories. We need more women to take leadership roles, and I think programs like this are really important. And I want to thank all of the people who put this together, and I hope that they can collaborate and do more, or mentor and help other people get together and do this. So I want to thank them again. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Darcy Green. I'm here at the National Hispanic University at our Fantabulous Latina event. And I'm really excited to be here today. It's an honor to be able to sit on the panel and give some of my experiences from nearly a decade that I've spent working in government and community relations. I'm going to be talking about, one, my new position at Kaiser Permanente as their Community Government Relations Manager, and the last 5 years I've spent working for the Office of Assemblyman Joe Cotto. It's always inspiring when you can talk to other young Latinas about the importance of getting involved in your community and the importance of not being afraid to take risks and go out there and get what it is you want. So I'm looking forward to the feedback from the panel. I'm looking forward to hearing the other panelists. They're very distinguished, and it's always a pleasure to be able to come and support a great cause like this. Thank you.
Well, I feel like it's a wonderful honor for me to be able to play Juana Briones, because she was such a wonderful woman, and she's helped me a lot too. I'm so impressed with her paperwork and the way she kept everything in order, and I'm still struggling with that. I'm trying to take an example from her and learn how to be a better businesswoman. because she was an excellent businesswoman. And I think one of the, as I mentioned in the talk, that she really knew how to work with people, and she had a lot of people come and stay with her when they were sick, and she would take care of them at her house. And I think between that and her healing of people with, no matter whether they're rich or poor, it didn't matter what they were, she would take care of them, and take care of them until they were completely well. And I think people really appreciated that. And also she was very, very Catholic. Juana was a person that she'd go when somebody was sick, she would say, she had this prayer, she'd say, Dios ayúdame por favor, please help me. And if they lived, she would say, Dios me ayudó, he helped me. And then if they didn't make it, she'd say, well, Dios lo llevó, took him. So either all her time was around when she went to heal. It was all part of it was being religious and trusting in God, and also trusting in her herbs. She worked a lot with the Ohlone, the Indians, and they really respected her because she knew so much. And I think somebody asked me if there was any kind of problems. Probably one of the problems might have been with some of the people who did the herbalists among the Indian people. But when they saw that she was in good faith, that she wasn't trying to do anything to usurp anybody's power, that she was just doing what she was good at, they really took her in, and they did a lot of traipsing, looking for hierbas together. And healing was a very important part of her life, as well as her family and her business. And I think being with the abusive husband was very good for her in a very strange way, because it made her be very strong. I'm going to be doing in May, I can't remember the date, I'm going to be doing a Juana Briones school in Los Altos, which should be really fun. And then this summer I'm going to be going to Ohio to be part of a Chautauqua piece with 3 other people. It's like they chose people who were business people, and Juana was chosen for that. So it'll be me, and it's a funny combination, Julia Child and Walt Disney, and I forget the other one, but they're all geared from the idea of being business people. It's a 5-day Chautauqua. They'll have tents up, and people will be going from tent to tent. I've never done this before. This is what they used to do in the olden days, and so I'm very excited about that. And then July 26th, I'm going to be doing a fandango with part of the History San Jose doing Juana.
Hi, I'm Consuelo Yepes, and I've been part of this speaker series since it began, and I really enjoy it. I enjoyed today because it really promoted women, and it was my first time knowing about Juana Briones, and I found it to be very fascinating. So I really like this speaker series. I like all the people that are here. And anyway, that's it.
Hi, I'm Maria Cordova. I'm a former counselor at San Jose City College. And I just want to say this was really great. It was great in many ways. One, I never knew about Juana Briones. And it helped me to look at history and to see that women were very active way back when. I think Cindy Chavez did a wonderful job of putting everything in perspective, and she really pointed out the scary part about running for an office, which I hope our young people will really pay attention to. And I think that Cindy Chavez represents how difficult it is to be in an area where mostly it's run by men. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Juan Terul Rafael. I'm here at the Hispanic University, and
my name is Guadalupe Gutierrez, and this is my first visit to the university. I go by it quite often because I have a daughter who lives up the road, and I always wondered that I really wanted to know what was going on in here. And today was very, very inspirational, the presentation they gave, especially because it was a woman. And I identified a lot with her because, like her, I was a single mother of 6 children and decided in 1968, they recruited me, the Mexican-American community recruited me to go to San Jose State. I was 36 years old. and I went to school, got my degree from San Jose State, then went on to Berkeley and got my MSW, my Master's of Social Work, came back into the community and dedicated the rest of the 30 years in education at Evergreen Valley College and San Jose City College in helping our raza, the women, the men, and it's been incredible how the successes we've seen, because we Mexicanos have been back to school and back in the community helping our raza. And I would like to be a mentor here, and if anybody wants to get a hold of me, I give presentations. Also, my phone number is 408-292-9697. You can ask me questions if you want to get a hold of me. Just if you want to call me, talk to me, it's fine. My emphasis in my education was counseling.
Hi, I'm Kathy Akatif, and for some 15 years we've been trying to save the Juana Briones house in Palo Alto, and we have managed to keep it from demolition, but we are really trying to, what we need to do is harness the passion of the Hispanic community to preserve their heritage in this incredible place. And it's in a very sorry state of repair, but it's not gone, and we can still save it. So.
Hello, I'm Clark Akatif, and along with my wife and Jean McDonald and many other people, I've also been involved in the attempt to not only preserve, most importantly, preserve the house and prevent it from destruction, the house of Juana Briones, but also just to bring to the awareness of the world the importance of this person as a Hispanic pioneer and as a woman, a person who, number one, being Hispanic at a time of Anglo domination, number two, being a woman, number three, being an illiterate person, not a person of great education, who nonetheless was able to make a significant contribution to the history of California. We want to keep that memory alive and growing, and we want to preserve her house, which still exists, the oldest house to my knowledge in the city of Palo Alto, perhaps one of the oldest houses in this whole part of California, and it's in danger of being destroyed. We've kept it from being destroyed for 15 years, and hopefully with the help of many more people, it will not be destroyed, and it will eventually become a historic resource for the entire community.
It was my honor to serve as chairperson of the planning committee for the Homenaje a la Mujer event, which is one of the many in the series of the Distinguished Speakers Series here in the National Hispanic University. The main purpose of the Homenaje a la Mujer event was actually divided into three parts. The part of the history or the past, well, the three parts or the three elements were the past, the present, and the future. And representing our past, we tried to find a way to make a visual impact of the power of Juana Briones as the very first woman that we could count as a role model in this Silicon, that is today known as Silicon Valley. And then Jeannie McDonald, who was the author of Juana Briones of the 19th century, was a real plus that enhanced the details about Juana's land ownership of over more than 4,000 acres here in not only Silicon Valley, but also in San Francisco. The center part was the present, that was a presentation talked in which Cindy Chavez, former city council person and vice mayor of the city of San Jose, was able to talk to us about her experiences in gender differences among leadership styles. and she certainly brought interesting perspectives that we hope have an impact and an influence on our future, which is the third element of our overall event. And that was the young Latinas in college students and in high school students who will play a significant role in our future. And the two previous presentations, the past and the present, we hope, and it was our motive for doing this, is that both of these elements inform the future and inform the young Latinas in terms of making career decisions, future choices, and it impacts them overall on the power of women and the significant role that women play in her story. We're used to hearing his story as the big overarching accounting of what has gone on in the past and the present and also in the future, that we brought in to light the perspective of her story, which is also a very important part of the overall accounting of history that will take place. And as more and more of these events take form, we'll begin to see that women played a very vital role. Not always were we the little woman in the background, but in fact, like Juana Briones, we were leading, we were running ranches, we were business women, we were landowners, and so on, such as Cindy and Jeannie McDonald, who is an author, and Cindy Chavez, who's a former vice mayor and now the current executive director of the South Bay Labor Council. And I'm sure we'll be hearing from Cindy a lot more in the future, as we will be hearing from these young Latinas whose ideas were infused and more seeds were planted today with this event. So I want to thank everybody at the National Hispanic University, primarily Dr. David Lopez, president of the university, who was gracious to approve this event and who was a grand support for it. And that kind of leadership is significant to the overall her story. Thank you once again. It was my pleasure, and good luck to everyone.